Hello everyone, welcome to another draft video here at thefakefootball.com. My name is Greg Smith, at Greg Sauce on Twitter. I will be your host for this draft of the Fake Football Reader League. And these are special leagues run by the website, not standard scoring, not standard roster construction. So one quarterback, 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs, a tight end, a wide receiver, running back, tight end, flex, kicker and a defense, 6 bench spots. And we're off to the races here. I've drawn the 5th pick at random. First 3 picks were Bell, Lynch, and Antonio Brown. And I've got my first 60 picks loaded up here into the queue. This is my own personal top 60. You can find these on the site, thefakefootball.com. And you can also find them on Fantasy Pros. That's where we're looking at them right now. So Eddie Lacy was the next pick there, and that leaves me with the decision between Adrian Peterson and Jamal Charles. We should note that this is a PPR league. I do have Peterson ranked higher than Charles. I'm going to make that pick. I have Charles in a few other leagues, so I don't mind diversifying a little bit. I do think that's an underrated part of playing fantasy football, especially if you play in a lot of leagues, is to make sure you're not overexposed to the same players, not only just for your own, sanity. Like if you draft Adrian Peterson everywhere and he's a bust everywhere, then you're going to be a sad camper. Whereas if you have Adrian Peterson in some leagues and Eddie Lacy and others and Jamal Charles and others, hopefully you hit on some of those and you let your draft skill in the later and middle rounds kind of bear out how well you do overall between all your leagues. But in terms of early round picks, I do like to diversify a little bit. And Adrian Peterson is my number 1 ranked player. You can see that over here in the ranks. So I'm perfectly happy taking him in the 5th spot. So what are these reader leagues? Let's talk a little bit about that while we're waiting for the draft to come back to us here. These are leagues hosted on the site, PPR, and right now it looks like all of our leagues are full, but that doesn't mean there won't be more, and it doesn't mean you personally can't sign up to become a commissioner. So if you're interested in doing that, you would just need to email thefakefootball@gmail.com and ask about becoming a commissioner. You can do it. It's really easy. Our main man, Chet Gresham, will set you up with that. Now, why do you want to play in these leagues? Well, prizes. Every week, the top scoring team from all of the leagues will win a t-shirt, the Fake Football t-shirt, and at the end of the season, the winner of each league will receive a trophy, and on top of that, if you are the overall high scorer between all the leagues, you will get an even bigger, better trophy. So be sure to check this out, thefakefootball.com, or search for Reader Leagues, TFF, and you'll find it. But for now, let's get back to the draft. Catch up on some picks here. After I took Peterson, the next picks were Charles, Gronk, C.J. Anderson, Jeremy Hill, Julio Jones, Forte, Demarius, and Dez. Pretty standard fare for a PPR league. A lot of wide receivers going early. That makes a lot of sense. With this next pick coming back to me, I'm hoping that one of the elite receivers falls. Calvin Johnson. But him and Odell Beckham were just selected, so won't be living that dream today. I'd be really excited to get Randall Cobb here in this spot, especially after the news that Jordy Nelson is going to be out, supposedly with a torn ACL, although I don't think that news is 100% official. DeMarco Murray was just selected. Other guys at the top of my board here, Alshon Jeffrey, AJ Green, Mike Evans, Justin Forsett, Lamar Miller. Some of these guys are a little further down the Yahoo rankings. These, again, in the queue are my own personal rankings, so it's possible that even if a guy's at the top of my board, I can avoid taking him and hope to get them back in the next round. We may see that happen here with a pick in the middle of the draft, like 5th. We'll see. In terms of which draft positions I like, 5th pick is one of them. You definitely get to scoop up the last of what I perceive to be the elite running backs, between Peterson, Bell, Charles, Lynch, and Lacy. I think C.J. Anderson is knocking on that door. He's my number 6 player, and I wouldn't mind taking him at 6. But in general, I do like the top 5 a little bit more. They feel a little safer to me. There goes AJ Green. So we've got 2 picks left before I come up here, and chances are it'll probably just be Alshon Jeffrey and Randall Cobb, and I'll be screwed out of the guys that I want to draft. If that is the case, I will probably take Mike Evans and hope to, get back one of these running backs. Although there goes Justin Forsett, so I will be good on one of these wide receivers. Randall Cobb was selected, so Alshon Jeffrey, top of my board. Supposedly he's injured. I don't buy it. I think he's going to be ready for week 1. And I do think he has, wide receiver 1 within his range of outcomes. He's going to be a highly targeted guy, and he has a ton of talent. Other guys I would consider here are Evans, Lamar Miller, T.Y. Hilton. I'm pretty far down on LaShawn McCoy. It seems like everybody else in this draft is as well. Smart people, these readers of the fake football. So I do think it's correct to take a wide receiver here. I'm going to make it be Alshon. Hopefully, Lamar Miller makes it back to me next round. If not, no big deal. We could take another wide receiver. Again, the starting lineup only dictates that you start 2 running backs, and I already have AP, so I definitely want to load up on wide receivers considering the PPR format. All right, wrapping things up on round 2 here. I'll explain to you that when I do these videos, there's a lot of downtime between picks. Not so much when I'm drafting in the middle like this, but we will take breaks occasionally. I'm not going to talk through the whole thing. We do want to keep these draft videos digestible. I know that our first one with Jeff DeMont ran really long, but I got to talk to that guy. I want to get the chance. So we'll be right back with a recap of the picks you missed and my next pick. All right, here we are back for the start of round 3. After I took Alshon, Mike Evans, LaShawn McCoy, Luck, Lamar Miller, T.Y. Hilton, Jordy Nelson, and Mark Ingram were the next backs all selected. Bunch of sharp picks coming up down the pipe here. I would have liked to get a lot of those guys back here in round 3, but, sometimes it's just not meant to be. Not exactly sure what we want to do with 1 pick left up before I come on the board here. Wide receiver does seem like the way to go. My top-ranked guys are Jordan Matthews and Brandon Cooks. In this format, PPR, I might elevate Cooks above Matthews. I should note that my rankings are assuming standard settings, so as we go through the draft, we'll try to keep in mind when PPR, when the PPR setting needs to come into our evaluation of who we're taking. Interestingly, I don't think we can expect to get the guy we don't pick back, so it does come down to Cooks versus Jordan Matthews. It's a good question. I don't know whether I'd rather have the PPR upside of Cooks or the slightly higher touchdown upside of Matthews. I think I'm going to stick with the rankings, take Matthews, and we'll see what happens in the next round. I like this start, Peterson, Alshon, and J-Matt. It feels pretty strong for a PPR league. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who comes back to us here. This is the part of the draft that most people hate. When the elite guys are mostly gone and you're looking at a lot of guys with question marks, whether they're wide receivers or running backs. None of these guys are worry-free. Melvin Gordon's a rookie. Latavius Murray, an injury risk, and, we only really saw him be good for a short period of time last season. Cooks, can he score touchdowns? How good is Breeze going to be this year? The quarterbacks, Rodgers and Wilson. There's nothing really wrong with those guys, but if you're an experienced fantasy football player, you know that there's a lot more value to be had at quarterback in the later rounds. Anyway, a lot of risk in these couple rounds. Or not a lot of risk, but enough risk to make you not feel great about many of these picks. So we'll see who goes while we're gone here, and catch up again for round 4. Okay, we're back for round 4. The picks you missed were Frank Gore, Aaron Rodgers, Brandon Cooks, Latavius Murray, Andre Ellington, Alfred Morris, Joseph Randall, Carlos Hyde, Jimmy Graham, Russell Wilson. 4 picks left before I come up here. We'll go back to the available players list just to see who's at the top of the Yahoo rankings. And as always, we have my rankings on either side of the screen at this point. Not exactly sure what direction we want to go here. I'd like to lock up a second running back with one of these next 2 picks, but wide receiver seems like it's just as valuable at this point in the draft. Probably a little more safety in those picks. Looking at the available running backs specifically, I'd rather just wait. But with that said, a guy like Amir Abdullah, a guy like C.J. Spiller, even Chris Ivory, all these guys seem like they'd be pretty decent values at this point. Abdullah and Spiller, particularly in this PPR format. Jonathan Stewart's a guy at the top of the rankings, and I think he's fine. I generally worry about him staying healthy. But again, that's often a red herring. Maybe I'm overly worried about Jonathan Stewart's health prospects for the upcoming season. Looking at wide receivers, Andre Johnson, Emmanuel Sanders, Martavis Bryant. These are the top of the Yahoo rankings. I've got Sanders, Keenan Allen, Brandon Marshall, and Allen Robinson at the top of my ranks. If we go back and sort by overall players, you can kind of see that the running backs are ranked a little higher. So if I pass on the wide receiver this time, I'm pretty sure I'll be able to get one of the guys I like back in the next round, whether it's Allen Robinson or Brandon Marshall. I know that Keenan Allen in particular is buried pretty far down here. It's worth noting that Julian Edelman, who's a little further down my rankings typically for standard leagues, does gain value in this PPR format. So it's possible he should be, up here, like right behind Allen Robinson, or maybe even right ahead of him. With that said, what picks did we miss? We missed Amari Cooper, Melvin Gordon, CJ Spiller, and Amir Abdullah. So there go the two running backs I would have liked to get here. That makes this a pretty easy wide receiver choice for me. Like I said, I'm not huge on Jonathan Stewart, although he is my number 1 ranked running back on the board. I'm going to take Sanders. I'm hoping this injury is not serious, but we're going to go with it. It's so early in the preseason that even reports of injuries, you can kind of ignore to some extent. I mean, obviously some injuries are worse than others. Like, we can't take Jordy Nelson at this point. But, I mean, a hamstring injury for a guy who we know will be a starter if he's healthy in Emmanuel Sanders doesn't terrify me. But let's go ahead and read the rest of this note. Sidelined for the last 11 days. Described as a cramp originally. Roto World says he should be 100%, so God bless you, Roto World. Thank you for making me feel at ease. Anyway, we're running out of guys here in my queue of my own top 60, so it will become a game of positional need eventually. I have my 3 wide receiver spots filled out. I have my number 1 running back. Still have a flex to fill, still have a running back spot to fill, and my tight end spot. So coming back to us here in the next round, probably not going to go tight end or quarterback yet. It basically comes down to, do we want a second running back, or do we want to take another wide receiver for the flex? Again, if we look at the queue that I've got set up here, it's mostly wide receivers. It looks like Jonathan Stewart was selected. Yeah, after I took Sanders, the next picks were Yeldon, Greg Olsen, Andre Johnson, Keenan Allen, Kelsey, Stewart, and Edelman. So, again, some of the guys we thought would be values are definitely rising up the draft board relative to the Yahoo ranks. That's no surprise. Again, these fake football reader leagues do have good players in them, and it's going to be a proper challenge to win week in and week out. Anyway, we're back up here on the clock. This pick comes down to Chris Ivory versus another wide receiver for me. And if we look at the running back landscape again, we're definitely running out of quality, every week starters. I don't even know if Chris Ivory is that. But just because these ranks are thinned out a little bit more, it does make me want to take one here. Because, again, there are a lot of wide receivers that I like. And I have my starting wide receiver spots filled. So I'm going to take Ivory. I don't feel great about this pick. But I feel like the way I've drafted this team so far kind of necessitates me taking a running back in that spot. I do think the fact that there are guys like Ivory and Gurley and LeGarrette Blount and Doug Martin available at this stage in the draft does give you incentive to draft wide receivers early within picks 2 through 4. And I mean, I've done that here, so I guess it's no surprise that I believe in that sort of strategy. Anyway, we'll see what happens with the next few picks when I rejoin you in just a moment.